Let me say one thing about Andrew Schneider.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I had a conversation with him 2 years ago, and I talked to him just yesterday by phone and by email. And I said to him, I said, well, do you remember that conversation we had 2 years ago? And he said, well, let me put it this way. Today I got 7,000 emails in response to this. So he's getting, 7 to 10,000 emails a day in response to this article as it's spreading all over the world. And he said, don't take this personally, but I don't remember the conversation, but I don't doubt that we had it. So I said to him, I said, well, I remember it very well because I was very hopeful that you would take it and run with it.
Well, that doesn't even matter. The point is that you're doing a great job, and it's very, very exciting. And here you live right here in Austin, Texas, and we just appreciate everybody's work exposing this. It's also coming out that most of the cereal that they claim is organic isn't. And this stuff is just causing such an amazing problem. I'm gonna try some of this right now.
Well, let me tell you something about organic and honey after you taste this, and I'll.
Oh man, I love good honey. Here we go. Now it's turned into a food show.
This honey right here has a lot of hackberry and tickweed and broomweed and grasses.
Winnie the Pooh. Sorry.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff.
Let me tell you, I'm not just saying this because you're here. I'm not a BSer. Better than Fane's.
Well, thank you. Don't tell Fane that, though. I mean, I like the guy. He's a great guy.
No, it's good. That is really good honey. Yeah. But, some people don't like the real honey. They don't like the raw stuff.
Well, if they don't like raw honey, then what do they like? I mean,
exactly.
What's not to love in honey? So,
well, I know there's a lot of other points that after we end this interview that I would have wished I asked and you would have wished that you made. Being kind of a honey master of sorts, what else should we know about what's going on in the world of honey and how it ties into overall agriculture? Because we're seeing government harassment of small farms, ranches, people selling lemonade, people growing gardens in their own yards, people having organic cookouts. Government really seems to be scared of real agriculture. Why is that?
That's the $1 million question. It's probably more like a $100 million question. I really don't know why they're scared, but I can tell you from my own personal experience that, we had a question, just a simple question about the presence of a negative test result that we got back from a USDA lab on the West Coast that was recommended to us. The same lab that tests many of these, most of the honeys on the West Coast for the presence of pesticides. They also test foods and things like that. And they reported to us that they came back to us and said that there was a presence of a chemical called carbofuran, which is extremely deadly to bees. It's deadly on contact. So there's no way, if bees were in the presence of this chemical, that they would be able to bring it back to the hive. And so basically, I wrote them and I said, well, how could there be carbofuran in it? The scientist went back and he tested and he said, oops, our mistake. And he wrote me a very nice letter apologizing profusely. But that set into motion a 5-year investigation, which just ended yesterday. 5-year investigation by the USDA and the EPA. They both came down. They sent various departments of health. They put us through the ringer 9 ways to Sunday, and the assumption was that we were guilty until proven innocent, not the other way around.
And you were sending it to be testing because you wanted to know. You've sent your stuff to other government labs, and they said best ever. So again, you're there researching your own self, and then they're freaking out.
Right.
Because I guess they don't want to really talk about this. I bet these big mega companies, that you were kind of alluding to earlier, you said that the head scientist said, yeah, I don't know why they're allowed to do this.
Right. There's definitely a double standard. If you're a small up-and-coming company and you don't have the money to, really defend yourself, then they're going to treat you like a whipping child. It's just there's no two ways about it. And I went so far as to write a letter to then President Bush and work through the city of Round Rock, to work through a number of people in Washington, D.C. to address this member. And I eventually spoke with the man who was the former head of the FDA. And then I spoke with the field investigator in Dallas for, I think it was the EPA. I could be wrong about the organization, but I spoke with some pretty senior folks. And they said, okay, well, we're going to check into this and we're going to look into it. But then nothing happened, And it was like, so you're basically intent on harassing me. And I said that directly to him, and he said, no, we don't harass people. And it's like, well, what is this? And I said, when all this is over, am I going to get an apology? And there was no response to that. Well, I got a form letter yesterday saying, hey, we concluded and we found exactly what you said, that there was nothing in it. No apology, no nothing. And I just thought to myself, I really need you know, I could wring someone's neck over this. I mean, it was just absolutely insulting. And if I hadn't been the combative type, they would have just steamrolled me. You know, I mean, in other words, if I hadn't taken them on and took them to task, saying, look, I have this testing, I know what's real, and you can't tell me what you think is real because your results have been proven to be bad and mine have been proven to be good over and over and over again. And so, you know, but they never apologize. They'll never admit, hey, we screwed up. That's our mulligan. You know, they won't say that. So,
Konrad, in closing, how important are bees to the global ecosystem? And I mean, is it a serious alarm bell that all over the world they're dying en masse?
Can I say hell yeah on TV? I mean,
well, if it's killing them, what's happening to us?
Well, here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. If we don't start putting a beehive in every backyard, if we don't start getting people more interested in bees and keeping bees and all of that, and people go into our beekeeping school and doing all those sorts of things, you better get used to eating rice and oatmeal because that's about all you're going to get. You're not going to get nuts, you're not going to get fruits, you're not going to get most vegetables like squashes and things like that. I mean, you know, so the bees, they do the majority, they do, you know, the load, the biggest load of pollination. And so you're not going to see the grocery stores, in the grocery stores.
Yields would go way down. I mean, they've estimated like 60% without them.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's actually more like 60 to sometimes even 80% of the stuff, depending on the grocery store, depending on, you know, like if you're in a Whole Foods versus a Sam's Club, you know, how much of the produce section do they have? This would, if bees weren't around, you wouldn't have. You just wouldn't flat out, you just wouldn't have blueberries.
Is the establishment, not just government, but like the big mega agra, are they even concerned about this? Or?
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't exactly have the kind of relationship with the government or with big agra that where we talk around.
Sure, but I mean, just from being, you know, from researching, I mean, do they seem to be concerned about colony collapse at all? Or?
Well, you know, the government responds to things like colony collapse by starting a program or a study or doing something like that. And you know, we're in a crisis situation. This is not the time to study the issue.
Yeah, we know the bees are dying.
Right.
This isn't like Al Gore and global warming.
Right, right. I mean, you know, so that's their response. And my personal opinion is that that's a weak response. There has been a resurgence in interest in keeping bees. And just in our beekeeping school, just since April, I ran the numbers yesterday, we have trained 2,460 people to be beekeepers. That's just since April. And
there's also tax incentives.
To having hives on your land. That's right, because bees are treated like cattle in Texas. I don't know about other states, but if you have a hive, you know, or if you have a certain amount of hives and you have them for a certain amount of time on your land, then definitely there's a tax abating benefit to it. So,
well, we've had a link to your website up there on the screen, but people can visit that there and find out more. Konrad, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And good job to the folks exposing what they're doing with the so-called honey. It's kind of like this pasteurized milk. It's not really even milk. It's more like a liquid cheese. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to break and come back with some hardcore information with Gerald Celente. I mean, it's time to get your money out of the big banks. It's time to if you've got gold, to physically hold it, because they stole his gold. They stole his gold. Russia earlier today, got him on to talk about the world economy meltdown he predicted. And he said, by the way, let me just announce to everybody, they've stolen my gold. He was keeping his gold in a safety deposit type banking system, and it's been taken by a company that, quote, collapsed. And you're going to see this more and more. I mean, this is a depression. This is serious, serious business, and we have criminals running our society. We're going to go to break. Gerald Celente, straight ahead.